Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hi,
Okay.
Carolyn. Where is everybody?
I think I think that
Hi.
yes, so
Oh, a
Kylie
bit.
matter.
What an intro. I'm over here.
Nice.
Okay, great. So we're all here.
Mhm.
So it's for everyone that's joining us. Hi. So welcome to our interview with our special guest, Mrs. Elizabeth Hamilton Guarino. This is her second time here with us and our team from Two Spaces and by extension Tiffany's Identity. Just to give you an introduction, my name is Carolyn Lewis. I'm the lead strategist at Tiffany's Identity. And for those of you watching, our guest Elizabeth is the founder of the Best Ever You Network. She's the CEO of Compliance For. She's a master life coach, a best-selling author of multiple award-winning books, and a member of the Forbes Business Council. Elizabeth has also been listed as one of the top 50 women CEOs of 2022. And Crystal and
Wow.
Sabita, who's also joining us, well, they're both female entrepreneurs and foodies. So, Elizabeth, how are you today?
Sabita is a foodie. Did I hear that? Is Sabita a
Yeah,
foodie?
Yes, I am.
Nice. Sabita
you,
is
you
huge.
both
Already.
share that passion for food.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Good
Beautiful.
evening, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am very much excited to be part of this interview, especially meeting Mrs. Elizabeth Guarino. Um, I don't know, reading, I looked at your profile on LinkedIn and it just seems so inspiring, but then at the same time, so not unattainable. Like you saw like the path that you took and the passion behind it and the fact of you really want to change persons or at least let people change their mindset as to how they see themselves and how they see themselves in their career and that kind of thing. So that was really, really inspiring for me. So I'm excited for the questions that we have, and I'm sure our viewers as well, would glean a lot from the interview. So it's great to be on tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
Mhm.
So, how are you today?
Elizabeth, so nice to see you again. Welcome and hello to everyone that's out here watching tonight. Very happy to be a part, obviously, of this evening with Elizabeth and Carolyn and Crystal. This is Tiffany's Identity, which is all about empowering women, and we're going to learn some tips from Elizabeth. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Right.
Well,
Hmm.
thank you for the warm welcome to everyone. And, I love this conversation. Thank you for having me back. I had so much fun the first time. I'm so thankful that you guys invited me back because I love these conversations. I think they really help people. We all see things from such a different viewpoint. And I think when we all share ideas, I saw kind of the list of questions and where we were kind of gonna go and everything. But I think it's so nice when people chime in and have their point of view. I think it really helps people out because we're all so different, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true.
That's what
And
makes the world go round.
yeah, so Elizabeth is also she's one of our speakers at our upcoming conference. This is for you guys who are tuning in for the first time with us. We have
Right.
the UI conference, and Elizabeth is one of our speakers who talks about facilitating change and taking action. And that's what we're about at Tiffany's Identity. So, today we want to talk to Elizabeth about female leadership and the journey to becoming a CEO. And
Mhm.
you have this wealth of experience along your life path, and you've written a few books as well. So we just want to hear some more from you about what that journey was like, where you began and when you made that decision that, hey,
Don't
this is
start
the path
there.
that I want to take for my life.
Yeah. The answer is it was all over the place. So for you folks that are all over the place, follow me because I'm all over the place and I have been all over the place. And I mean, just a mess. For you seem like you get it all together and then something else happens. But I'm kind of kidding around a little bit. But I'm 53. I'm a mom of four sons. They're 21, 23, 25, and 27. Um, And it hasn't all been just like, oh, I'm the, I don't walk around going, oh, I'm the CEO of anything. I call myself actually the chief cookie baker at home. So, and we have a lot of fun. But I think as I was writing down notes about, like work-life balance and all these things, and I've got so many different things written down. But I think the one thing that strikes me that has helped me in my journey is taking things in phases, especially with little kids. There's a little kid phase and a toddler phase, then their teen, all these different phases. And my work has revolved around my kids. I did that intentionally so that I didn't miss moments, realizing how precious not only time is, but time with them. They get that when I dropped the first one off at college, it was like, whoa, where did that time go? And I still am doing that. I'm like, I see people down the street with little kids, and I'm like, wow, that was us. It feels like that was just yesterday, and it's 20 years ago. Or our oldest is 27, so I mean, it was a really long time ago, but it feels like it was yesterday, and I still feel like I need sleep from it. There's moments where I'm like, oh wow, but I don't know if that helps answer questions or lead us in a direction of a conversation. But I've really approached always kids. Really, I've always put the kids first, my family first, and so forth. And not that I don't put the job first as well, but it trades off sometimes. And I've made sure that I didn't miss moments. It was the really big thing for me. I didn't want to have kids that said, you were never there. That doesn't do it for me. So I feel like my kids would say, okay, you can go now. We've had enough of that.
Yeah. I completely understand what you're saying, because I saw my mom. She worked really hard to be successful at her career. And then, when we were young, she would make time to take us to the zoo, play our favorite games. But then I saw her also working hard at her career. And I think it was through her, she was the inspiration for me that you could do both. You can have a family, you can be committed, you can be involved, but you can also pursue your career and the things that you enjoy. And it doesn't have to be necessarily one or the other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And what I like too is that you did not sacrifice your family life for the sake of your career. I feel as though sometimes, and yes, we know sacrifices must be made, but I love the fact that you were so family oriented. A lot of people think, and I guess a lot of women, they look at women in high positions and think, well, they must have given it all up in order to get there, or they probably didn't have a family. They can't afford to have a family if you get to that level. But you have actually showed us differently that you can still have a family. You can put your family first, because at the end of the day, your real title is not CEO. You don't wake up as a CEO. You wake up as a wife, as a mom. You know what I mean? That comes first. So that is just so inspiring to me, and that you have kept your family life as a focus, and then everything else sort of spill off around that. And I think it's because you've been intentional about it.
Incredibly intentional about it. I can remember being an executive in Minnesota, and being so stressed out that I had to fly somewhere, and I had two little babies. I'm like, how do I do this? How do I actually divide myself into two places and spaces? I'm like, they're little, they need me. I've got to go here and do this job. And I can remember, how do I do this? And I think we control what we can control, and we think outside the box. We do a lot of things as women that aren't like, well, you watch them, I'm going to go now. We always have our kids on our minds no matter what. So, I mean, I could be in California teaching a class thinking, are they okay? So I ended up taking the kids with me sometimes. I was like, okay, you're coming with me on the trip. And I would hire a nanny or something like that to help, or my sister would play nanny and go with me. We had all sorts of clever things that you did in that phase, of the job and career. But I know as women, I'm not saying that we're alone here. To men too, I know if you got my husband on here, he'd be like, hey, I didn't miss a moment either. He made a clever pivot in his career to work from home. I thought that was, he worked from home before it was a thing. He has worked
Wow.
so long, and he vowed never to miss moments too. So together, the four boys have had their parents there, and I know that may or not be pragmatic, but it's what we did, and we really worked hard to do that.
To do that. Wow.
We've said no to things. It's like,
And it's okay to say no.
Although sometimes it's very hard to say
Oh,
no, right? Because
yeah.
we're so used to like saying yes to everything and getting
Mhm,
everything
mhm,
done. And,
mhm.
like that was something that I struggled with because I had a job that was very demanding. I mean, it becomes demanding at times when you're a corporate event planner and you're doing events for like non-for-profit organizations. So I'm putting on annual conferences and I'm flying right across Canada. There were months where I would come home, basically just leave the suitcase there, wash everything and just dump it right back in because the next week I was flying out and I was going to be somewhere else. So at the time, I just had my daughter. And that was the thing, right? As I was becoming more and more progressive and, full steam ahead with my career, my family took a little hit, right?
Mhm.
And, good thing, my husband stepped in and he was always there to cover or grandma or, I think they enjoyed when I was away because then they would get to order, junk food and stuff like that. But at
Whatever
the
they
same
want.
time, right? But then, 10 years later, I got my boy and I had to make changes.
Yeah.
Because I realized I missed
Mhm.
out on my daughter, right? A little bit.
Mhm.
And I didn't want to do that the second time around. So yeah, I did have to make changes, and the changes that I made for myself, and then I prioritized and said, you know what? No, family first, and
Mhm.
everything after. And
Yeah.
if they didn't
Wow.
like it, oh well, then I'm going off on my own, and I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that part's really hard. I remember with our third boy, I was like, I can't physically be there and here at the same time. I'm outnumbered at this point a little bit. And I can remember when they were 0, 2, 4, and 6, because they're all 2 years apart. I was like, wow, I'm really outnumbered. I'm not going back to work for a while. And
Wow.
I worked from home. I did everything that I could do. I would write, I would blog, I would, do all these things. But until the little one hit first grade, I was in this office working from home. I've taken, I think I said this to you guys the last time, I've taken calls from my walk-in closet before for quiet. I've done that. So I think, we just do what we can. And I think conversations like this are important because it takes that fake thing we all put on to, yeah, I'm working, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And, it's
Correct. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the authentic conversation is, wow, I'm really tired. I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to keep the house clean, dinner made, kids at school,
Yeah.
job going,
Yeah.
and God forbid somebody, have a flat tire or whatever it is to throw the whole schedule off course. There's a lot of things that go into balancing
Mhm.
the 24 hours with
You got
kids.
work calendar and then you've
Mhm.
got at home calendar, right? Where you're
Oh, yes.
scheduling everything and marking it off and making sure, like, if you're away, this is being done. There's so much things that we juggle.
And we
Mhm.
haven't even talked about the self-care factor in there as well.
What
We were
self-care?
talking
The me time.
exactly.
Exactly.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
what happened to me. I was just like, oh my
Same.
gosh.
Listen,
Yes.
I think
Tell me about
I
that.
think
Oh,
me
sorry.
time. No, sorry. I think my it's breaking up a little bit. So when I'm hearing a little bit distortion. I'm not too sure if it's probably my internet connection. Are you guys hearing everything okay?
Yes.
Carolyn, Sabuta. Okay, well then it's probably on my end. Yeah, I am just it's like y'all are preaching to the choir right now, especially Sabita. I mean, sometimes it is okay to not always have everything together. To not, it's just reality. And then sometimes you have to refocus, you have to regroup. Like I have a to-do list every single day. There and my mantra, if it's not on the list, it doesn't get done. If I don't write it down, I it doesn't get done. It doesn't get done, right? So it's like in between all of that, then you have to, now mind you, I don't have a family, right? Not yet. I'm in a unique stage in my life. It's uncharted waters for me where I am venturing into the entrepreneurial world. It's a little exciting, it's a little wild. Having worked in corporate for over 20 years. Yes, and I'm kind of giving away my age a little bit. So it is, it's nice, it's wild, but it's an adjustment for me. And even with being busy and working on different projects and that kind of thing, I have to schedule time for me. So for example, today I had to be intentional about, like, I like to work out as much as I like food, Sabita. I like to work out as well. So I actually had to schedule time to, okay, Crystal, make sure continue a little exercise because that's part of my me time. And if you don't do that, you will just run yourself to a frazzle, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, so like as she was talking about that and that balance where we're going into self-care and the things that you want to do for yourself, because we were talking about work-life balance before. So that's the balance between your career and your pursuits and then your
Mhm.
family life, your home life. But then there's you as a person,
You,
and
yeah.
and you give so much of yourself. So you're a coach. So you're pouring into others in your professional life. And then you're pouring into your family at home. And then you're sometimes you reach a point where you're empty and you need to recharge. You need to be able to take some time for yourself and figure out what's going on in your mind. And it's how can you be intentional about self-care? And self
Mhm.
care is a word that's thrown around so much now in this generation. These like millennials, they're all about self care. So self care looks like to them, if it is they have a friendship and it's dysfunctional, they switch off their phone, they
Right.
disconnect from everything. But it's not always practical to just disconnect from the world. And you being so integrated with everyone in your life, how do you approach self care? How do you approach time for yourself?
Mhm.
Um, are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I had a long list here. I think one of my big things about self-care is self-care without being selfish,
Mm.
especially
I like that.
I'm not going to be like, oh, you guys fend for yourself. I've got to go do my yoga or whatever. I'm not like. I think there's even a balance with self-care, so that you're not selfish. But I think self-care comes with boundaries, and they can be soft boundaries, like what you did, Crystal, where you scheduled in your workout time, but you kept your commitment to yourself. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be profound, but keeping that commitment to yourself. If you say every day for, like the next 60 days, I need to regroup here a little bit. So every day at 10:30, I just actually did this. I personally feel like I need a little bit of a regroup before the holidays. It's like birthday and then
Mhm.
holidays. And I just kind of like, okay. I made a commitment to myself yesterday for every day at 10:30 to work out. I'm like, all right. And we did.
Nice.
Yay. We worked out. Yeah, and so just, like little things like that. And I didn't say work out for, 5 hours or anything like that. Just I just needed a little bit of a battery recharge myself. And then the
Mm.
other thing that I did was I'm going to bring that word no back in because I can remember time. I wrote about this in my first book, Percolate, where I felt entering the self-help world to be my best, I needed to please everybody, of course, right? Like I was
Mhm.
the yes woman extraordinaire. Yes, I'll come to the craft fair. Yes, I'll volunteer. Yes, I'll make cookies. Yes, I'll read. I mean, yes, all over the place, especially when it came to anything with the kids in their
Mhm.
school, volunteer, PTA, everything like that. And I got to tell you, I mean, I said no one time, and people were like, whoa, she said no. She must, and so have your yeses and nos matter. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't derive self-worth from, being the PTA president or anything like that. It was all about the kids. And so just, understand that, you may need to set your yeses and nos accordingly. And aside from that, I'm a photographer. I garden. I love my camera. If I peace for me, like if I'm going to take a time out, other than maybe this new exercise thing, is to go outside. Is to
It's
go
like,
outside. No, I actually exercise, but I think I needed to kind of crank it up a notch. In my 50s, I cranked it up a notch. But I'll put my camera on my neck and go for a walk up and down the street and take pictures and do that kind of thing. But I think I bet that's probably similar to you guys in some way, right? The yes, the no, the boundaries, the everything.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be hard because the things that people come to you with are things that are aligned to your purpose.
Yeah.
So your natural instinct is to want to help because you know you can. But then sometimes I've had such a long day, so my day might start sometimes at 4 a.m. or sometimes at 6 a.m. And I might have gone to bed late the night before. But I know that I'm going to try and schedule in time to go to bed at a reasonable time this night. And then a message comes in and it's someone with a mayday. They need help with something. And it just seems like a small thing. And so I say, okay, sure, I'll give them 5 minutes. But then it turns into an hour and then sometimes more. And it's like, okay, I don't have enough for the next day. So I need to set boundaries now to know that I can have enough for the next day. And that's what self-care sometimes look like. It's not that you don't want to help everyone, but you can be more intentional about your time. So you can let them know not right now because, so that they know that it's not so much that you're shutting off, but that you just need time to recharge. So I think informing is also a good strategy of connecting with people. I see that we
My kids, they will say, "Oh, mom just says no."
Yeah.
When you hear, "Mom, no," I'll just say no.
But
But
what
they
about
always
people in
like,
your
"But you
public?
didn't hear me out," and I'm like, "Don't need to." The answer's
That's
going
with
to
your
be no.
kids. Like sometimes it's a little bit easier with your kids, because
Oh, I
you know
know.
them so well, so you
Yeah.
know their tolerance level.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. No, but self-care for me, I think I also discovered like a meditation app.
Yeah.
And so I take 10 minutes in the morning and or before I go to bed at night and just mellow out and just do my meditation. I've been doing that consistently now for the last since the beginning of the year. And that is really helping me to stay focused. Because I think a lot of times we're so involved with so many things, right? They come at you in all different directions. And yes, we're women and it's in our nature to just please people and you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, right? So you don't want to say no. I wanted to be at the ball game tonight. That didn't work out. But you know what? I would not turn down this opportunity to be here tonight with you guys, anyways. Because once I know, it's Carolyn and Elizabeth, and now I've got my next foodie family here. Like I'm excited to be here. So I'm like, whatever. You know what? My Raptors, they can wait. I'm a huge basketball fan. I know you're a baseball fan, right, Elizabeth?
Oh, huge baseball fan. Yeah,
Your boys play ball, right?
One of them plays college baseball at Georgetown. But yeah, we have baseball going in the other room. I can kind of faintly hear it. I think those no's with respect to work are so important because I didn't learn this until a really long time ago. I'm sorry, I didn't learn this very easily a long time ago is what I was trying to say. I can remember being in labor in the hospital. And at the time, the cell phones were like, I don't know, like this big. I mean, they were just huge with a huge antenna and all that stuff. And my boss at the time said, take that with you in case we need you because you're the only one who knows this information. I'm like, I actually got a call while I was in labor. I'm like, I'm in labor, kind of thing. And what I should have done is shut it, that kind of thing. But I thought I was important or whatever it was. I have no idea. They might need me, but they would have survived without that phone call. And so, that was in my 20s. You think that you need to do that so that you keep your job, you get your raise, you get your this, you're liked, you're all these things. What's going to happen if I say no? And, I don't know if sometimes that matters because it matters right here. What happens if you say no? You're in control. You're in the driver's seat of your yeses and your nos. So, but I remember being pretty scared, like if I didn't take that cell phone with me, to the labor and delivery room that I was going to be fired from my job or something, and God forbid you take, time off with the babies and things like that. So I don't know if times have changed that much. I'm not up on the current, laws and things like that
I know it's very different everywhere, obviously, right? And I know it's particularly in the US, mat leave is like what, a few months?
Good.
For you guys?
I'm serious about it.
No, in Canada, we can be
9
on mat
months,
leave
right?
up to 18 months.
Wow. Way to go, Canada.
When I had my kids, I mean, I was off for a year.
Wow.
But now it's gone to 18 months. However, just like you, I did the exact same thing. When I was on mat leave with my son, I returned back to work part-time, like, just fulfilling a couple, doing it like 2 days a week, remotely, obviously. But at the same time, I could have just said no and just spend that time completely dedicated to my son. But, I opted to be involved in work because I think I didn't know how to say no. And I didn't want to miss an opportunity again, right, for something or whatever. And then you look at it now, 15, 20 years later, going, I should have just said no, right? But you live and learn.
Yeah.
Correct. You live and learn. And I, for one, I'm comforted to know that I was not the only one who had an issue in saying no. And like you, Elizabeth and Sabita, that's something that I've only learned or I've grown accustomed to in my 30s. I'm still in my 30s. Well, the tail end of my 30s. But you almost felt as though, well, every engagement, as if people need, okay, well, we want you to do this because you're good at it. Oh, we need your help. And you think as though, well, if you say no, that means that, you're wrong for doing that because they really need you. But really and truly, it just means they could always get somebody else, and that it's okay to say no. And that saying no does, and you could say no without even having a reason. You don't even have to have a valid reason. That was another thing that got me. Like, if I say no, I need to have a valid reason. No, I could just simply say, you know what, I'm not anymore. No, I wouldn't be able to go to that. Or you understand what I mean? So I think that was something that I kind of had to also learn and discover and change my mindset about it. And it means that my how to explain it, my not existence, but I am not tying my value to the things that I am doing, if you understand what I'm saying. So even if I don't want to be known as the person who just says yes to everything and that gives me a sense of value. But even if I say no to something, it doesn't take away, I don't feel guilt for saying no if I choose to just put me first in this particular situation. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that is just me in my current life right now. So imagine if when I have a family, there are going to be times where I will have to say no for even my family's sake, So if I could start saying no for me, then it puts me in a good position where I'll be able to, make those decisions when I have my family. And as Elizabeth said, I am in charge of my yeses and my nos. Nobody else. I'm not a slave to anybody else. But I'm queen of my yes and my no.
The other thing that I had a hard time doing was learning how to say no. I was like, well, how do I say no to that?
Yeah.
Without hurting their feelings or getting fired. I had no idea. When you say no to somebody, there's a response. There's always a response, and some people are like, okay, and other people are irate.
Yeah, and sometimes and the fears are, well, they may ask if it's them, well, why? And I want to be able to, you see, don't ask me why.
Well, I developed a kindness sandwich that my kind of thing. It's like the first part is like, thank you for thinking, like here's an example. Thank you for thinking of me. I need to say no to that. And then something positive. I hope you think of me again in the future.
That's my rule of thumb for writing. I always say anything negative, I always put it in the middle. So I start nice, put a little bad thing in the middle, and I end nice.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like patting around your no. And usually people kind of are like, all right. And as opposed to like, do you want to volunteer for the PTA glue gun counter, which was a firm no for me. But I was like, no, never, kind of thing. Like, why not?
Mhm.
And then you get talked into it. And eventually, like, this is an actual real thing. I ended up, I am not crafty at all. I mean, at
Mhm.
all. If you got my kids on here, they'd be like, no, don't let her do this. And I ended up in charge of the glue gun at the craft fair
Oh,
for the kids. And it's like, wow. And it was this hilarious thing where you cut the arms off the t-shirts and you make a tote bag with a glue gun. And I'm like,
That sounded like a disaster for you, Elizabeth.
oh, it was terrible. The kids were lining up crying. Their glue, they came unglued, really. And I ended up with a stapler, like a staple.
All because you didn't say no.
Never been in, but I should have just said no. I knew my no, that kind of thing. But that's the kind of thing that happens when you don't say no and you needed to say no.
Right.
So you go, oh, there's a reason why I needed to say no to that for sure. So anyway, that's my PTA story.
Yeah, you have such amazing stories around your kids. I mean, I think you're an inspiring mother. You're an inspiring leader. And I think for someone of my generation, as I said before, the millennial generation, we saw our parents work so hard to have their job and to provide, but then also to raise us as children. And so I think what happened more so now is that my generation is saying, we don't want to have kids in our 20s for sure. Maybe our mid 30s, we'll consider the possibility of having kids. And it's for that same reason, because we want to pursue our career. And we also want to be a good parent if we decide to make that step. And we know that it means putting our kids first. And that could be a little bit challenging because you also want to put your career first. And, like now to focus on as a woman, it's a lot harder. So I could speak for myself, someone in tech, it's a male dominated space where you have to work a little bit harder to get
Prove
more
yourself.
roles, to have your voice heard, to have a platform. And then you step into leadership roles and you face the same type of challenges where, a male in the role, they wouldn't be second guessed. But then you have to come with all of your facts because you're going to be asked a million questions. How are you so sure that you know what you say what you know? And so I wanted to know, for you, stepping into leadership roles, how did you break through that proverbial glass ceiling in
That's
this,
the name.
like for you?
Yeah, I'm a CEO in a male-dominated financial services world. There are not
Wow.
many CEOs in the financial services world, especially in compliance. So and best ever you as well. Best ever you is more of like I'm more of the founder, but compliance for something that I run on a day in and day out basis. And I wrote a couple of things down here. So if I look down at my notes here, I think that no matter who you are, to there is a glass ceiling. I've experienced it before, and so I think about us as women and taking care of each other, and hiring the best people for the job, hiring that female for the job if she's the best person for the job. And that's how we break the glass ceiling. We keep going. We keep hiring. My mother is a great example of a glass ceiling breaker. I'm in the middle of 11 kids. So I only had 4. She had 11. And she was the CEO of a huge company back then. And that was unheard of. Her mom used to look at her like, what are you doing? And so I had a really strong female example of business and kids and balance and this and that and another thing. But, I think the other thing too is you can't break through the glass ceiling if you don't see it for yourself. Like if you don't see that for yourself, other people aren't going to see it. And the other thing is just because you want something doesn't mean you're going to get it. You really do truly need to be an expert in that field. So being knowledgeable, having the expertise, putting in the time, the energy, and the hours to know all the different facets of the company and how it operates and all of these things, because no one walks around going, I'm the CEO. That just sounds so funny to me. Really you're the same as everybody else. You just maybe make a few decisions that are different than other decisions that people make. at a different level. But it can be really hard to get taken seriously. It can be. And so surrounding yourself with, I always say, surround yourself with people who know more than you do. Find those mentors, find those other women role models who are doing something that you want to do. If you're paving a path and you can't find any other women that are in that role already, that have done that flight path, find guys around you who can help you do your flight path. Because, guys are amazing. You just,
They are. They absolutely are.
And so, we try, it's just finding the right people, I think. Because I don't think anybody goes, I think I'm going to break through the glass ceiling today. I don't think I think like that. I don't think I was intentional like that. But I knew myself as a strong female leader, and that comes with that.
Yes, I completely agree with you. I think it wasn't so much I want to break through the glass ceiling as much as I see that role and I want to do it. And even though it's a role that's normally filled by a male, I mean, I have the same qualifications, so I don't think there's anything separating me from them for me not to be able to apply. But you raised a good point where you said that find a mentor. And you said even if it's a male mentor, that's okay because sometimes it's only male mentors in the space that you want to be in. And I think that was something that made such a big difference for me. So at different points in my life, I had mentors who showed me the way to be able to continue to step up and to improve and so in my mind, I didn't have the same limitations that, oh, well, maybe I can't do this thing. It's more like, how can I do this thing? What are the steps to get there? And I took the steps and I continued to progress. And then people ask me, how am I doing this thing? And I said, well, same thing you said before. You took the time, you did the research, you took the time to educate yourself and prepare yourself for the role. And, once you believe in yourself, I think confidence is key. A lot of people doubt that they're capable of being able to do it. So they don't even try. They just say, well, I probably won't get chosen. I'll probably get overlooked. But
that'll get you overlooked with that line of thinking.
Yeah, no, I always, no, mindset is you go in there with you're getting it.
Yeah.
There's no if.
Right. Yeah.
I am the person who's going to come out. Yeah. That's always been my mindset. But, just to touch on a lot of, exactly what Carolyn was saying, and this is something I observed as well, right, in my industry, because event planners, a lot are females, right? But a lot of the clients that I specifically worked on, the industries themselves were dominated by male. Mm-hmm. And so, like I looked after a particular, organization, which was, the Building Envelope Council. Well, that's a coalition of engineers, architects, people in construction. Well, guess what? 99.9% of them are guys. But the 2% that were females, I encouraged them to keep pushing. And then it was a couple of days ago, I was just in an NFT space, and I heard someone say that his daughter is inspired to become an engineer because of the current games that she plays, like Roblox or Minecraft, right? Mm-hmm. And so these young girls today that are getting so involved in these video games that are, very structural and so on like that. I love that it's opening up their minds to saying, hey, I want to be able to build, right? And then me as a parent, I would always just be like, you are going to be able to build and you should be able to build. And any female who wants to do anything should be able to do it. No questions asked.
Very nice. I'm going to throw in a little curveball question here, and it came up because of what Elizabeth as well as Sabita said, right? Now, I am all for women supporting each other, but have you guys ever experienced in your rise to leadership where your peers, your female peers, have not been supportive, and like you kind of sense that suddenly they were good with you when you were at one level, but when they realize right? Have you guys experienced that? And if you have, how did you navigate, through that process?
Yes.
Oh,
A lot. A lot.
oh my God, wow. So you probably lost friends along the way.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
had that in my life a lot, actually. A lot of meanies, and it just is what it is. And you think there must be something going on in your life that is causing that. I'm going to throw that throw that back over to you, because I know that I'm pretty consistent. I'm pretty focused. I'm pretty helpful. I know myself well and how I've treated people.
Mhm.
That that I didn't necessarily deserve the treatment. If that I've done it a few times where I've deserved it, but no, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I apply compassion, kindness, and elegance, grace, collaboration to every single human being that crosses my path. And so I would strongly suggest that. And if people aren't nice to you, it's on them.
Hmm. I'm not on you.
Serve that
Nice.
back over in the court and go, sorry, I can't
Right.
do that. My boundary's going up right there. My bubble wrap, my earplugs, and everything, because I'm on a mission here. And
Hmm.
you want to come along, I'll promote you. I'll help you too, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But I've had instances where it was me and somebody else, and I got the promotion and they didn't. And they were mad, flat out mad, screaming, holler, and everything in the office. And it's like, and you can't rationalize with irrational in those moments or anything like that. And it's not really your job to explain why or why not they did or didn't get something or do something. So
Hmm.
I don't know, that probably isn't the perfect answer to that, but that's how
I get it. Yeah. Yeah. I was just
There isn't.
wondering.
I don't think that there's a perfect answer to that, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I faced it a few times as well, and
felt it. I felt that before.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine. That's
This is
what I'm
your
feeling. I'm
colleague.
like,
This is your colleague. You've been working alongside this person who, is supposed to be a team player as well. Only to find out that when you got the promotion, you know what I mean? They were just, yeah, very,
bitter.
not nice with their words and so on. But you know what? You wish them well and you continue on and you hold your head up high because you deserve that. You deserve
right.
that promotion and
Hmm.
and you just continue to move forward. And,
Right.
toxic and negative people don't belong in my circle. I don't keep people like that around me because
Right.
I don't give out that type of energy. I like to
Hmm.
give positive energy. I wake up in the
Hmm.
morning with my glass half full, even if
Right.
I'm down or I'm feeling a little, and we go through our ups and downs throughout the day, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what it is. And sometimes I do get a little deflated,
Hmm.
but I'm a type of person that I guess I follow and read so much motivational, uplifting things that it takes just one. Sometimes it takes a couple words, and I'm like back at it again with
Hmm.
the biggest smile and energy, ready to just go.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Nice.
I felt that before, like Carolyn, I felt that where, somebody would get promoted and I didn't, or somebody got a better grade or whatever. Life is full of that. Life is full, we're all here. We all have different gifts and talents and dreams and goals and all these things. So if somebody is chosen for something instead of you, wish them well.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Your
know,
time will come. And
that's right. Yeah.
Their success.
yeah, your time will correct. Your time will come. And then also too, if it's the other way around, that you don't have to feel ashamed of your success and that you shouldn't have to dampen your light because somebody else is affected by it. You know what I mean? You just do what you have to do. It is what it is. And I mean, unfortunately, sometimes it is in those situations you really see who your friends are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've had
So,
some nasty stuff said to me through becoming an author, because that's a really small percentage of people that get signed to become authors and to be traditionally published. I mean, it's like being in the MLB. It's a tiny percentage of people. And I've had people come up to me and go, why you? You know, I've had terrible things said to me over the course of many years now, and here and there, you know, you just and you stop and you're like, well, you know, why not?
Why not me? Exactly.
It
Why
makes
not me?
you think, though,
That
you're
should
like,
be a
"You guys are good
hashtag.
for this," and then, you
Why
know,
not me?
yeah, well, but why not? You know, who says? Who says you
Mhm,
can't? And
mhm,
usually you find if you pry a little bit further, it's like, well, that person's like, well, I had that dream and goal and that same thing, and I didn't get selected, and you did, and how did
mhm,
you do it?
mhm. So they're a little bit salty.
A little bit, but most of the time you can kind of soften that even by understanding that people are just trying to figure out how you did what you did.
Correct.
Because
Yes.
they're like,
Yes.
and it comes out wrong from people. They're like, oh, instead of coming up to you and going, "That's so cool, you did that. I really want to do
Mhm.
that too."
Right.
Which is what I did. That was my approach. I went to Michelle Phillips, who was a Hay House author, and I said, "I love this book, Beauty Blueprint. I need my book to be exactly this. Can you help
Right.
me do this? I've got this vision. I got," and she's like, "I'll help
Mhm,
you." You know, kind of
mhm.
thing. I didn't go, "Well, you got a book and I don't," you know, do, you
Right.
know, like, I love
Yeah.
it. This is amazing. And my book's the same size as her. My first book is the same size as hers and everything. And so, you know, usually it's finding the people that are doing what you want to do and approaching them in a positive way, saying, "Hey, you know, I
Mhm,
really love what you're doing here. Um,
mhm,
I want to do what you're doing, blah, 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 blah," you know, that kind of thing, instead of being nasty.
mhm.
But that's probably what what's at the root of that is somebody's got their, you know, feelings hurt because they didn't get selected for something and
Yes,
somewhere
and they feel a little bit
so hard.
insecure,
Yeah,
insecure about it.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think also at the root of it, sometimes they didn't have someone in their life that celebrated their wins. So they're just
Mm.
kind of alone on their journey. And I think one of the things that has been helpful for me, I mean, I'm an introvert, right? So I'm not really a
Really?
people out there. Yeah, because I like being by myself. But
I
what
kind of figured this out about Carolyn, you know? But you know what, though? She is shining more and more every time I see her, every time she's on
Oh.
a space and she's hosting. She's
Mhm.
shining. And she's coming out. Look at her. She's just, that's it.
no,
She
but
Keep
is.
going.
new things are challenging for me. I really like one of the things that came out of, COVID with all the bad was the ability to meet online more. And, it's been helpful for me for new situations. But what I was going to say was one of the things that really helped me throughout my life was having at least one good person in my corner, one friend who, on the days when nobody celebrates you, you message them, they celebrate you on the
You
days
have
when
that one fan.
having a bad day. You have that friend. You can't vent in work, but you can vent to your friend and be like, can you believe this person said this? And they're
Yes,
like, how did
yes,
or the
yeah.
days about yourself. There are days when you, even if it is you have all your qualifications, you have your titles, you get faced with a situation and then you doubt yourself, even though you have everything, it's still, sometimes you still battle with self-doubt, and then you message that person and they're like, why would you think this? And they help you to work through your thoughts, work through
Mhm,
the lies sometimes that's in your mind. And having someone in your corner, I mean, having a community is great. There are people who are extroverts and they have a whole community and they love community. But then for some of us, it's just, having those one or two people in your space who you can trust, you can let your walls down with this. I think that is one of the more helpful things for me getting through situations.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
nice.
But yeah. But there are like a few other things that I wanted to know from you, Elizabeth, like as a young female entrepreneur, kind of venturing out into this space. I mean, I like working in organizations. I wouldn't say that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur necessarily. I like looking at organizations and how their processes work and helping to integrate their people together and help them to work together to build something meaningful. And I think there's something great in that as well. But for people who are young female entrepreneurs, what would you say is the steps that they can take to branch out into that field? They're just starting up and they're not quite sure what the steps they should take.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe three top things or three or four top things that
Yeah.
you'll leave with us. Yeah.
Um, I've got actually a lot of stuff written down. I was thinking about this a lot, actually. This is
Give
the
us,
thing that
give it to us all. Give it all.
I think they're going to be the same words again a little bit, but be consistent, be determined, be focused, be authentic, but above all, be kind and compassionate to every single person that you meet. Treat each and every, like as a young person, I learned a long time ago, somebody said this to me a long time ago, you know, be kind to every person that you meet. They're going to come around again. You know, they don't burn bridges and things like that. No matter how much you want to tell the person off or whatever it is, you know, but be kind and compassionate. Treat every person that you encounter with a sense of grace, elegance, collaboration. Maybe they're a mentor, maybe they're a friend, maybe, you know, but above all, that all is at the root of networking. Network. I can't stress it enough. Because by the time you get to be my age, which I'm 53, and if you go from age, whatever it is, to the point where you actually hear that and absorb it and everything, let's say you're 18, 19, 20, and somebody, like I said to our son, network in college, get to know the professors. They're going to sign off on your recommendation letters for graduates, whatever it is, network young. And then by the time you get to be my age, you have this amazing group. People are like, Elizabeth, you know them and them and that. I'm like, yeah, I've networked. But I actually truly, I get networked to the point where I can match people. Like, do you know them? You need to know them.
I'm seeing that of you. You like you've seen connections.
Yes. And network to that level where at my age you become that mentor and that helper of people. Because if you can do that as a young person, even just start to network. But above all, be kind and compassionate to every single soul that you meet. It will serve you well.
Because it does come back. It does come back full circle.
It's a circle.
Yeah. Yes, it sure does. And I see my husband. My husband's older than I am by 10 years. And I see him and somebody told him that also. And I see when you need something, somebody shows up, and it's because they've had this relationship for so long. He'll get phone calls out of the blue that'll say, hey, we're staffing this position. Do you know anybody? He'll be like, yep, I do. And he'll put a younger person in it or whatever, because they've taken the time to call him and network with him. So it goes round and round and round and round and round, no matter if you're jumping to different industries or whatever. Keep your network. It's one of the beautiful things about LinkedIn. I don't go on LinkedIn on any social media to amass a following, you know, just like, oh, people. Like, oh, every person, like, who are you? Where do you live? What do you do? Hello, you know, kind of thing. Every single person, that takes time to do.
Yeah.
Someone told me that actually when I was in my early 20s. Same thing. I was at a function, and, you know, just fresh out of college, everything, right? And you're trying to get your feet into the door and discover, you know, what is your path. And that was the one key thing I remember him saying, how important it is to network, because networking gets you, I mean, first of all, you know, if you have no fear and you're that type of person who's just, you know, can enter a room and just, you know, talk to people, that's me. I can randomly talk to a stranger on the street. That's just how I am. But for someone like Carolyn, right, where, like she said, she's an introvert, right? So she doesn't necessarily walk right into, you know, meeting room, and, you know, there's 100 people there, and it's like, oh, hey, hi, how are you? You know, you get going. What would you say to someone who is a young millennial, and that is an introvert? How do they network?
Yeah, exactly. Delicately, differently. I'm actually kind of like you, Carolyn, in a room. I will go to the wall, and I call myself a wallflower. There's a great blog by Dr. Ivan Meisner called "Pay Attention to the Wallflowers," because in a room, I'm not going to be the one who's talking all the time. I'm going to be the one listening, and I bet Carolyn is too. She's listening and observing and everything. So every room is different people, and so what I say to people is, understand. You learn pretty quickly when you're young, and it does kind of change, but I'm not certain that it changes completely. I'm not sure I'll ever go into a room and be like, hey, you know, I'm just not like that. And so,
It's me too.
yeah, but so it's up to the people who do go into the room and go, hey, to grab those wallflowers and engage us in conversation. And it's up to us to talk a little bit more and realize your contribution to the room and people, and
It's
just
valid.
that you belong there. Remember
Correct.
your value in those moments and understand you belong there just as much as Joe and Ted.
Everybody else.
Yeah, everybody else. Yeah. But I usually have my ears on instead of my mouth going, depending. Sometimes I'll get going and be like, hey, but not very often.
Yeah, but you made a point about intentional connections, even on platforms such as LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Approach it in an intentional way. And you're right. So as I got older, I got better at doing it. I spent more time in the background. But then, as you said, there are people who give you feedback and they like what you have to say. And you begin to understand yourself a bit better. And you realize that listening is not a bad thing, because sometimes in
It's
listening
a
to,
great thing.
yeah, you learn more about them, not just by what they're saying, but what they're not saying. And then it
Correct.
allows you to ask more intentional questions to help them to open up more. And so it's kind of like a
Mhm.
superpower. I think that being an introvert is a superpower. Listening is great.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about it too, like this, like if you're in that room or you're in any situation where you've asked somebody something, whatever it is, what's the worst? I think of this a lot, like what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no, or they don't like you, or whatever. And it might be a little knock to the ego or a knock to the yes factory that you really want. But if that's the worst that can happen, you can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
The chances are you'll if you go into a room, and so like Carolyn, if you're shy in a room, go there to meet one or two people instead of 40.
Right.
One or two really quality people. That's really pretty much what most people can kind of process and take away anyway, in reality.
And then and also too, when you make that connection with one or two people, you're not just making a connection with one or two, you are making a connection with who their network is.
Good
You
point.
know, so when you think about it, I think that networking thing is big. I really, really, I've heard it, but I think in our culture, it's not as, while yes, we network, it's not something that you hear people talk about a lot in a big way. So that is definitely a takeaway for me. And the fact that you be kind, you be passionate, of course, with someone. Because you never know when you're going to meet them again. You never know. Life, comes around and around and around, so
I say
that's
this in
really, really key.
relationships too. Married, breakups, dating, all that stuff. That,
Mhm,
that stuff gets heated. I've been divorced once. I get it, but you're
mhm,
better off being kind and compassionate and so forth, because it comes around. It
yeah.
really does. I have two of our boys. I was married once before, and I have two children from that marriage. And I think too, by having that, we did co-parenting when co-parenting wasn't a thing. When it was cool to fight, let's fight, yay, kind of thing. We're like, let's not, and let's give people peace. They don't deserve this.
Mhm,
This is our thing,
mhm,
not theirs, and stuff like that. And so, I think it's a relationship thing, and how you approach your relationships all around, not just work, but in your
right.
life as well. Because you can really burn some bridges with emotion and passion and all those things. Whereas at
Mm,
work, you might be like more like, oh, I better not say that or do that. But in my personal life, all bets are off. No,
mhm,
you know,
mhm,
keep the personal boundary. You're always the CEO of your life. You're your chief compliance officer of your own life.
yes.
Your chief social media strategist. You're your chief relationship officer. You're chief in charge here. So just remember that whatever you do is what I say and what I teach people is it's all around it. It's you as a human being and how you interact in everything. Not just
Correct.
at work, not just at home, not just here or there, everything.
Mhm,
It's
mhm,
having that composure and so forth everywhere. It becomes you. It's how you are. It's how you
mhm,
behave,
mhm.
if that makes sense.
Nice.
I agree
Yeah,
with
no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because life will happen and it depends on how you react. We are not in control of what happens. We are so not in control. When you think about it, it's kind of sobering, like, but what you are in control of is how you respond to situations and how you react, keeping your emotions in check, especially as a woman. You know how women could get, we could,
do, especially depending on what happens. It's like, oh my
right,
God.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right,
And so to not do that that's been some training for me along the years. Because
Mhm.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah,
definitely.
very hard, very hard.
Very
But
hard.
but self-regulation and becoming more self-aware is certainly things that I have kind of honed in on for the past couple of years, because I used to be a person where, if I'm upset, you will see it on my face. And
Mm.
that could, I mean, there's nothing wrong in having an emotion and being upset. But if you're in a room with people, you're going to give off that kind of energy. Persons are not, well, something is wrong with Crystal. You know what? Let me just stay away from Crystal because you know what I mean? She's gonna lose it any minute. So certainly becoming more self-aware and regulating your emotions and realizing that, understanding what your triggers are, identifying what they are, and then knowing that, you know what, I could make a choice. I am not going to allow this situation to affect me. And it's really intentional. I'm making it sound like it's easy, but it's not. It takes practice. It takes uh a, a concerted effort to do it, but if it's something, if you want to see change in your life, and you have to come to a point where you realize that, how long am I going to battle with this particular issue? How long am I going to allow, my emotions just to get away with me? I need to take intentional steps. And I think it starts with your heart and, believing that, I could be a better person at this. I can improve. I don't have to be like this, and then just make a decision and be intentional about it.
Because then you become at peace with yourself,
Yes, yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And that's something I think as we get older, we learn how to
Oh,
be
yeah.
at peace with ourselves,
With,
our
hmm
decisions.
Yes, and your decisions. Yes, yes, it is for sure.
Yeah. Good points.
Carolyn, do we have any more questions?
I looked at the comments. Well, we have some questions, but I was thinking we could probably wrap it up. I don't know if Elizabeth has a 1 hour time mark.
Very neat. I'm here.
Okay, good. Well, we had one other question, which was, well, it's more so it was around somebody who's become a CEO and, like on your journey. It's phrased as what's one thing that will catch a young CEO by surprise. But I think the thought around it is, you're on this journey and then life sometimes has these curveballs or these stumbling blocks that you learn lessons from. But then you would love if somebody gave you that advice as you're getting into it. So, what is some advice as somebody who has stepped into this role as a CEO? Some of your lessons learned and takeaways along your journey.
Did you say it's a young person?
Mm-hmm.
I would say respect older people. That's a huge. I think that's a huge thing, because same thing goes for older CEOs. Respect the younger people. Just respect all around is a huge thing, and I think sometimes that catches people by surprise, because we're all different ages and places and spaces and everything in a workplace, and it,
Is that me again, or is that?
it can be hard if you're young. Sure, it looks like the internet just went down. But the other thing I would say is, again, the difficulty of balance. I think sometimes that takes people by surprise because they're so laser focused on the job, they forget this, and this. And
Mhm.
so just that awareness of being a well-rounded CEO is important. I think I use the term well-rounded a lot. I don't know. And then people study you. That's my other thing too. People really do. How'd you do it? What'd you do? What do you say? What do you eat? What do you exercise? What do you dress? What do you wear your hair? I mean, there's a whole. There's are people that want to understand how you do what you do and how you operate at that level. And think of time.
And think it's an equation or something.
Yeah, she's frozen, but she'll
She's frozen.
Yeah.
God, thank God that didn't happen to me because I'm sure my face would not have been as nice.
Brady, people want to know. I can't tell
Yes,
if people did I freeze?
yes, you
Yeah,
froze.
God, just like this.
Was I at least cool when I froze?
I don't think it's ever
It
I didn't freeze, though.
was okay.
No, I think what I was saying was just be well-rounded. So we kind of, again, just that well-rounded part of being a CEO, because and then the other thing I was saying, if we froze, is people want to know how you got to where you got. So be transparent in what you're doing. There's a lot of people who, whether it's a world-class athlete or a CEO or whatever, people want to know what you're doing to achieve that level of success. So be transparent about that so that you can help the flight path and others. So
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about the social media age is the Instagram, the LinkedIn, the Facebook, but less that and more the Instagram and the LinkedIn. With the Instagram, you see people post these photos of their life and they tell these stories. So you see all the good moments.
All
And
the
with the
curated parts of their life.
yeah. But I mean, there's some people who take a more authentic approach and, they go on the lives and like what Elizabeth is doing with us today, where we can have more transparent conversations
Conversations.
around their journeys. But the people that we follow on these platforms on Instagram, we follow motivational quotes, we save things that we can relate to, and we want to see how did they get where they're going. And I think that's the beauty of technology. So for someone like me, maybe when I was in my teens, the idea of a CEO was someone in their 50s, but now we're seeing CEOs in their 30s, CEOs in their 20s, and
Correct.
it's a completely different age we're living in now. So I guess that's the beauty of technology, but in it, you want to learn from them. You want to not make the same mistakes they made, and you value their experiences. So you think that, hey, if I can learn from them, I can get there a lot faster, and I don't have to make the same mistakes. So value in that connection.
yeah,
That's good, Carolyn.
very
Yeah.
beautifully put.
Yeah, and community. So, I mean, even with Tiffany's identity, what we're trying to build is a community of women. A community of women looks like different things. Sometimes you can build a community specifically around one topic, like how Crystal and Sabita are foodies and they're sharing foods and recipes and tips and tricks. And then you might want to build like a broader community of women who they're multi-passionate. So they're a CEO, but they're also a mom. They're a food or they're in tech like I am.
Yeah.
And it's, how can you build a community that has all those things and not just one of those things? Because you might
Correct.
want to connect with the same people within your community. I think that's what we're trying to do with Tiffany's identity. It's an NFT project, but it's also about the community. And
And
so,
network.
yes. So the way the world is going now, and you see it out
Networking.
is the
Community that networks and support each other, empower each other, uplift each other.
yes.
And I cannot wait for that Best Beautiful You conference.
Conference. Oh, yeah.
Forward
Yeah,
to
that's one of the things I'm looking forward to as well.
Of course, absolutely. And all, like, the entire panel of speakers. It's just going to be so enrich and empowering, and just, it's just going to hit us on all different levels. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So I'm so thankful to have you with us yet again, Elizabeth. It's been an amazing experience. I feel like every time we talk to you, it's so hard to wrap up the conversation because you're just so transparent about your life, and I feel like I learned so much from you, and I see your awesome community you have online, and you're doing amazing things. I mean, you have the best ever you. You have your lives as well with your speakers about books, and even though it's about books, and this generation is not really so much about books, it's the conversations that you're having is about people's lives, and
because it's real.
yeah,
That's
it's real.
what it is.
It's real.
We're having real conversations.
Yeah.
And everybody can relate on some level.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm grateful to be here with you all. I learned a lot from you guys too. So hope we get to do this again. And I'm very excited for the conference, the Best Beautiful You conference. So how do people register for that? What do people do to get involved?
So the main thing that we're asking that they do is that they join us on Discord, which is
Just
our
for
platform for communication. So in there, you're connecting with other women as well as other people, part of a broader community, and so that they can follow us along our journey to the Tiffany's Identity Mint date. So, I mean, but you can also follow us on our other platforms, which is our Twitter, our Instagram, and and they can learn more along the way as they journey with us.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm going to wrap it up with you guys now. So for our listeners, I didn't see any questions come in, but good night to everyone that has joined us here. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you again, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me.
same here. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, ladies. This has been fun.
Yes, it has. So, Beta, we will talk because, food.
Oh, absolutely. You know how
It
to
has
find me.
really been nice. Really, really. I've enjoyed the conversation a lot, and I'm leaving with so many things to think about. Feeling very inspired, feeling very uplifted, which is the purpose, of the call in the first place. So, for everyone who's listening or who joined, even if you're viewing this after, because it will still be up on the channel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't just pass it by. We are having honest and real conversation. It is something that is going to make you think. Watch it while you're taking care of the kids, while you're cooking a meal, while you're driving. And there are going to be more. There are going to be more of those honest and real conversations in the future. So you guys could look out for that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So,
yeah, look, I'm the man now. I'm the man now.